Good morning, students. Today I am going to start with sixth chapter, that is beginning of freedom movement. Now this chapter tells us about the mixed effects in the Indian society brought by English education. The educated Indians formed organizations, carried out movements, and made people politically aware about Swaraj. The chapter highlights the feelings of nationalism that grew in different parts of India. It narrates the effects of Western education, study of ancient history by the Indians, and the beginning of social reformation. It throws light on establishment of the Indian National Congress, its objectives, foundation, members' activities undertaken and problems faced. It includes the activities that took place in the moderate phase, 1885 to 1905, and extremist phase, that is 1905 to 1920. It describes the failure of partition of Bengal and establishment of Muslim League. It lists the 4-point program of Indian National Congress and reasons of differences between the moderates and the extremists. It talks about the effects of suppression policy adopted by British government. It describes the Morley-Minto Act, which led to Home Rule movement, reasons of Lucknow Pact, and effects of First World War on India. It showcases the policies and strategies of British government in forming Montague-Chelmsford Reforms Act. Now, let's go to the chapter. English education made mixed effects on the Indian society. The seeds of nationalism were shown by the reforms of newly educated society. Now, last chapter, social reform movement we have already done, and Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Mahatma Phule, Vivekanand, Savitribai Phule, Gopal Hari Deshmukh, Marsh Karve, Veerselingam Pantulu, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. All these people and educated people, they brought about a social reform in India. And all this, created enough awareness in the mind of Indians regarding British rule on India. Due to various movements in different parts of India, a favorable situation was created to build a political organization on an all India level, which will bring together the various provincial political organizations, different groups of politically aware people, and to express the aspiration of nation by diverting the public attention towards the question of nation. This is how slowly, after 1857, again freedom movement was building up. The educated Indians this time were more organized, and the chapter speaks about different organizations and political party, basically Indian National Congress, and its role, how they made this freedom movement a nationwide movement, unlike 1857 revolt, which was localized, and as a result it was easily suppressed. But under Indian National Congress, the national movement was all India movement, and this is what this chapter speaks about. Centralization of administration during British rule. Due to the British administration, its implementation on India brought the nation under one roof in its true sense. Proper administrative system which Britishers implemented. Now India was under one roof. Due to identical reforms all over the country and equality before law, the feeling of nationalism developed among the people, equality before law. every Indian was treated equal. There was no discrimination as far as law was concerned. And all this was changed after Queen's proclamation, which we have already studied in the chapter Revolt of 1857. And all this led to nationalism, feeling of nationalism. For the convenience of administration and swift movement of army, the British built network of roads and railways. We all have already studied first railway from Thane to Mumbai. But these facilities benefited the Indians as well. People from different parts of India came in contact of each other. There was increase in communication and feeling of nationalism grew up. With this interaction, people from one place to another place could move. They could come in contact with people with different mindset. And all this was very important in building up nationalistic feeling amongst people. Economic exploitation. The Indian wealth was flowing towards England by all means. Due to the imperialist policy of the England, there was beginning of economic exploitation of India. Now what is this imperialism? Imperialism is a policy or ideology of extending the rule or authority of a country over other countries and people, often by military force or by gaining political and economic control. While related to concept of colonialism and empire, imperialism is a distinct concept that can apply to other forms of expansion and many forms of government. The concept of imperialism arose in modern age, associated chiefly by European colonial powers of 17th, 18th and 19th century. And new imperialism, however, expansionism and centralization have been pursued throughout recorded history, with the earliest examples dating back to mid 3rd millennium BC, following the retrenchment of European colonization. The concept has further evolved and has been broadly used to identify as well as criticize a range of policies and a number of states, including even supposedly anti-imperialistic state. But in short, imperialism or imperialistic tendency is nothing but rich and powerful country controlling a poor and backward country for its own benefit. That poor country was like a colony which was exploited by the rulers for their own benefit. Now farmers were compelled, forced to take cash crops like tobacco, tea, coffee, which could yield immediate income for the rulers. So farmers were forced to cultivate these crops. Now it is practically impossible to survive by using these crops, cash crops, tobacco, tea and coffee. Can we eat them? No, practically we can't. What is our requirement is wheat, barley, jowar, grains, which is very essential for our survival. But all these crops due to British policies, farmers were forced to cultivate cash crops. All this was putting burden on Indian farmers. Burden of land taxes, continuous famines, all these broke down the backbone of Indian agriculture. Traditional industries declined, which led to rise in unemployment. Handicraft industries, because of the policies of the British, were destroyed, and widespread unemployment rose. The capitalists exploited the worker class. Capitalist means, in economic term, capitalist means people with money, with currency. They exploited the common people, the workers. Various new taxes were imposed on middle class. This led to growth of discontent among the people. Western education. Due to spread of Western education, new ideas such as justice, equality, liberty, democracy, etc. were introduced to the Indians. Rationalism, scientific attitude, humanity, nationalism, these principles were accepted by Indians. Now, what is this rationalism? Rationalism, in philosophy, rationalism is the epistemological view that regards reason as the chief source and test of knowledge, or any view appealing to reason as a source of knowledge or justification. Not, accepting anything blindly, putting logic to anything before accepting it. That is, rationalism. More formally, rationalism is defined as a methodology or a theory in which the criterion of the truth is not sensory but intellectual and deductive. Not blindly accepting, giving reason before accepting. In an old controversy, nationalism was opposed to empiricism, where the nationalist believed that reality has an intrinsically logical structure. Because of this, the rationalist argued that certain truth exists and that the intellect can directly grasp this truth. That is to say, rationalists asserted that certain national principles exist in logic, mathematics, ethics, and metaphysics that are so fundamentally true that denying them causes one to fall into contradiction. The rationalists had such high confidence in reason that empirical proof and physical evidence were regarded as unnecessary to ascertain certain truths. In other words, there are significant ways in which our concepts and knowledge are gained independently of sense experience. Or in simple word, rationalism is nothing but, accepting anything or everything through logic and reason, not just simply blindly accepting it. Therefore, they inculcated a feeling that we are capable of carrying out the work of the country and its progress is possible by following these principles. India is a country of diverse languages. India got a new medium of communication. Study of ancient Indian history. The Asiatic Society was established at Bengal by British. Now, what is a briefing about Asiatic Society? The Asiatic Society was founded by civil servant Sir William Jones on 15 January 1784 in a meeting presided over by Robert Chambers, Justice of the Supreme Court of Judicature at the Fort William in Calcutta, then capital of British Raj, to enhance and further the cause of Oriental research. At the time of its foundation, this society was named as Asiatic Society. In 1825, the society dropped the antique without any formal resolution, and the society was renamed as the Asiatic Society. In 1832, the name was changed to the Asiatic Society of Bengal, and again in 1936 it was renamed as the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal. Finally, on 1st July 1951, the name of the society was changed to its present one. The society is housed in a building at Park Street in Kolkata. The society moved into this building during 1808. In 1823, the Medical and Physical Society of Calcutta was formed, and all the meetings of this society were held in Asiatic Society. So this is just brief. History of Asiatic society. Many Indians and Western scholars started study of Indian culture. The manuscripts in Sanskrit. Now we all know these Vedas and Puranas, old ancient texts of India were either in Sanskrit, Persian or other languages. And these languages were very difficult to read and understand. And that is why all these manuscripts were translated into English, Hindi and local languages for the purpose of research and examining its content. Now here I would like to point out Britishers were foreigners. They were ruling an alien land and they were not aware of their culture, religion, society, flora, fauna and other things. And revolt of 1857 was one of the reasons where somehow unknowingly the Britishers hurt the feelings of the Indian. Now this time Britishers were more careful. They wanted to study Indian culture, Indian religion, Indian society, so that while they were ruling an alien land, unknown people, unknown religion, into a new, atmosphere. So they wanted to understand all these things, and that is why, all the texts, manuscripts were translated into local languages so that these rulers were aware about Indian culture, religion and society. This way they saw that they did not hurt the feeling of local people. That was also one of the purpose of understanding Indian culture and society. Dr. Bhau Dajilad, Dr. R.G. Bhandarkar, these Indian scholars made intensive study of ancient Indian culture. After understanding that we are blessed with glorious ancient tradition, the Indians were awakened with a sense of identity. The Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute is working since the last 100 years in Pune. It is working, in the field of ancient Indian culture, traditions and other aspects. Contribution of newspapers. During this period, English and vernacular newspapers and periodicals came to be published. Through these newspapers, political and social awakening took place. English and vernacular. Vernacular means local newspapers, local language newspapers like Gujarati, Marathi, state-wise local languages which were spoken by people, so that people read the newspaper, which will create awareness about society, about culture, about past glory, and also it will create awakening about how Britishers were ruling country. Newspapers like Darpan, Prabhakar, Hindu, Amrit Bazar, Patrika, Keshari, Maratha started criticizing the government. Through these newspapers, the functioning and working of the British government was criticized. And when people read what government was doing, there was more awakening in their mind. All this was building up nationalistic feeling in the mind of Indian people, which would in future go further to enhance the freedom movement. So again 1857, it was a local badly organized movement, but now more educated Indians, and through education there was awareness, and through that awakening and awareness, the educated Indians started criticizing the British government regarding their policies, regarding their rule, regarding their destroying of Indian industries. Now people were more aware about all these things. Establishment of Indian National Congress. Now this is very important. On 28 December 1885, the first session of Indian National Congress was held at Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit School in Mumbai. 72 delegates from different provinces of India participated in this session. Vomesh Chandra Banerjee, a renowned lawyer from Kolkata, was the president of this session. In this session, they established the Indian National Congress. Allen Octavian Hume, a British officer, took lead in establishment of Indian National Congress. Increased proportion of Indians in administration, reduction of military expenses by British government, such statements were sent to the British. That means this political party now was, in a systematic way started, criticizing British policies and also started demanding better policies for Indian people. Objectives of Indian National Congress: to make the people from different parts in India forget their differences in religion, race, caste, language, geographical territories, and bring them on a common platform. To understand each other's problems and views, to increase the feeling of oneness among the people, to take efforts for development of country were the objectives of Indian National Congress. See, if you go into detail to understand history, right from ancient time, when India was divided into 18 dynasties, all these rulers, though they were strong and powerful, but they were never united, and this trend continued till medieval ages. And that was one of the reasons why a rich, strong, powerful country with all the resources was divided on the basis of language, on the basis of religion, and on the basis of geographical boundaries. That is how all these foreigners, whether it was Mughals, whether it was Portuguese, whether it was British, French, Dutch, they exploited this situation and became rulers of India. This time Indian National Congress was trying to propagate this idea of togetherness, feeling of oneness, forgetting all those regional differences, coming on one platform to fight against foreign power. This was the objective of Indian National Congress. This is how they were trying to build up a situation, a conducive atmosphere through which they can start the freedom movement. This way there was more unity amongst people. A concept of secularism, a feeling of secularism was building up because of the Indian National Congress, which was very important to further the cause of freedom movement in India. And all these things we are going to study later on. Moderate phase. Now, moderate is an ideology category which designates a rejection of radical or extreme views, especially in regard to politics and religion. A moderate is considered someone occupying any mainstream position, avoiding extreme views and major social change. In United States politics, a moderate is considered someone occupying a center position on the left-right political spectrum. The early nationalists, also known as moderates, were a group of political leaders in India active between 1885 and 1907. Their emergence marked the beginning of organized national movement in India. Some of the important moderate leaders were Firoz Shah Mehta and Dadabhai Naoroji, with members of the group drawn from educated middle class professionals including lawyers, teachers and government officials. Many of them were educated in England. They are known as early nationalists because they believed in demanding reforms while adopting constitutional and peaceful means to achieve their aims. The early nationalists had full faith in the British sense of justice, fair play, honesty, and integrity. While they believed that British rule was a boon for India, the early nationalists were staunch believers in open minded and moderate views. This is a short briefing about moderate views. Now let us go to the chapter. The early 10 years after establishment of Indian National Congress, their contribution was very slow but consistent. The leaders of Indian National Congress were realistic and highly educated, as I have explained you earlier. They were aware that through organized work, a strong foundation needs to be built up. Western thinkers Western thinkers' philosophy or liberalism, freedom, equality, fraternity, these values had an impact on them. All these, early nationalists were filled with all these values. They believed in constitutional methods, that is, legal methods. By law, they wanted to do things. They had hope that if we demand through constitutional methods, then the British will give justice to our demands. Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, Surendranath Banerjee were all moderate leaders. In this session of Indian National Congress, different resolutions were put forward by them, such as to get representation in provincial legislature, jobs for educated Indians, cutting down the increasing expenses on military. Legislature and judiciary should be separated for safeguarding legal rights of Indians. All these were the demands of the moderates. To cause a split in national movement, the British implemented the policy of divide and rule. As they saw that Indians were, gathering up against the British through these demands, again they followed this policy of divide and rule. And through this policy of divide and rule, they now divided the Indian National Congress. Now, extremist phase 1905 to 1920. Extremism is the quality or state of being extreme or the advocacy of extreme measures or views. The term is primarily used in a political or religious sense to refer to an ideology that is considered by the speaker or by some implied shared social consensus to be far outside the mainstream attitude of society. It can also be used in economic context. The term is usually meant to be, pejorative, different. However, it may also be used in a more academic, purely descriptive, non-condemning sense. Extremist views are typically contrasted with those of moderates. In Western countries, for example, in contemporary discourses on Islam or on Islamic political movement, the distinction between extremist and moderate Muslim is commonly stressed. The political orientation of extremists originated within the Congress from the anti-partition Bengal agitation. When the British government refused to annul the partition of Bengal in face of mass protest of the people of Bengal, arousing sympathy of the Indian people that disillusioned many young leaders, came to be known as neo-nationalist or extremist. The important extremist leaders were Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal and Aurobindo Ghosh. They were called extremists because they believed that success could be achieved only through bold means. That means they were not like moderates. They were of extreme view. And that extreme view is, even if they had to take violent measures, they will not hesitate if it comes to freedom of the country. All Indian leaders who were politically aware kept aside their differences of caste, religion, language, province and gathered on a single platform of Indian National Congress. This is how extremists came together. National Congress, there were unanimous decisions regarding the objectives of the Congress and taking forward the movement by constitutional means. But there were differences regarding working system. These were ideological differences. From these differences, two main political groups were formed: the moderates who advocated peaceful and constitutional manners, and the extremists who believed in severe struggle for attainment of freedom. Leaders like Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal, they are also referred as Lal Bal Pal, were believed to be extremist leaders. In the early period, the extremist leaders for bringing political awakening among the Indians used methods like newspapers, national festivals and national education. Keshari and Maratha were the newspapers through which Lokmanya Tilak made severe criticism on suppressive policy of British. Through these two newspapers in Maharashtra, Lokmanya Tilak criticized the British government. These were, vernacular newspapers which were printed in Marathi. And as local people read about British policies, that created awareness against the policies of the British. Because in this paper, Lokmanya Tilak criticized the British government. In Bengal province, Amrit Bazar Patrika was mouthpiece of extremist ideology. By forgetting the internal differences, people should come together and exchange their ideas. This was, basis of these newspapers. Common people should get inspiration from contribution of national personalities. With these objectives, Tilak started organization of Shiva Jayanti in Maharashtra and Ganesh Utsav, this Ganpati festival which we are celebrating. It was started by Lokmanya Tilak just to bring people together on one platform to fight against the British, to create a feeling of Indianness amongst people. For political reasons, if people came together, then government will ban them. But for religious reasons, if people come together, the government will not ban them, was his opinion. In short, if a political organization is formed, British government will ban that. But if a religious organization for purpose of religion, if this type of organization started, government will not ban it. This was the opinion of Lokmanya Tilak. That is why, in Maharashtra he started Shiva Jayanti and Ganesh Utsav, same Ganpati festival. In the Mandalay prison, Tilak wrote Gita Rahasya. Its core was philosophy of Karma Yoga and stressed that people should always be in action. Karma Yoga, work is worship. Through work we can get rid of all the problems. The extremist leaders established educational institution for creating a generation concerned about own language and tradition. They started, vernacular institutions through which they wanted to create awareness in the mind of people amongst Indians about their glorious past, about their tradition, about their culture, about their religion. The extremist leaders were of the opinion that if lakhs of people take part in freedom movement and challenge the British government by struggling against them, only then success will be achieved. So the motive of this Ganesh Utsav and Shiv Jayanti was to involve all people. People belong to every section of society, so that this movement gets strength. Through this way they can fight against the policies of the British. They unanimously believed that movement should be made more severe, but they did not adopt the means of armed revolution, rather insisted for an extensive public agitation. No armed revolution was started, but they wanted more people to actively take part in the agitation, in protest and other things. The moderates laid the foundation of freedom movement and the extremists carried forward the movement. In 1897 in Pune, the epidemic of plague, a disease which is caused or spread by rats, had spread on large scale. Hundreds of people died due to it. An officer named Rand was appointed. The plague patients were searched out and oppressive measures were adopted. As a revenge, the Chafekar brothers assassinated Rand. The government tried to connect relation of Lokmanya Tilak with this conspiration. See, they tried to frame Lokmanya Tilak in assassination of Rand. But after being unsuccessful, the government imprisoned Tilak with revenge. See, since Tilak was a very strong, powerful leader, led the people, and as a result, he was immediately put in jail. I will end this chapter here, a little lengthy chapter, so I have taken few more minutes. Please read the chapter. Any difficulty, please do ask me. Take care, stay home, be safe. Thank you.